how much you know until they know how much you care. Every day we bemoan the ill state of the nation's economy, pointing accusing fingers directly to those in government. But ask yourself, what have you done in your own capacity to improve your society? I am still of the opinion that a good society, the society of our dream, can only be achieved with a collective effort from both the leaders and the led. Welcome to CIP, a profound affirmation of the culture, nature, and structure of organizations. I am Harrington's Courage Bawo, and this is a Toshima Media House production. There is something unique about my guest today. He was an aspirant to represent Warri South Constituency 1 in the Delta State House of Assembly 2015. He, though was not favored by the result, was the first to be seen at the scene of an ugly incident that took place at Ubeji community of Warri South local government area of Delta State, where a petroleum tanker with full load slipped off the road and exploded, leaving no life lost though, but a lot of properties destroyed. I had time with him in his office days after and got wowed by a lot of shocking revelation. He is an award-winning legal practitioner, a rights activist, and a development consultant. He is Barrister Robinson Ariyo. Let's meet him.
Like you already have said, I'm a legal practitioner. I'm also a development consultant. I have a flair for ensuring that the society, is well-to-do. When I say well-to-do, the society I see as a machine which requires proper oiling to ensure that it moves smoothly. As a lawyer, I could decide to sit back and watch the society disintegrate. But if the society does, I will not be able to feature very well as a legal practitioner. And so it's a concern for me, it's a concern for every other professional. And so, driven by that urge to make the society work, I have had to journey into a couple of other areas like politics. And in journeying into politics in 2015, that was my first active sojourn into politics. I contested as the member representing Warri South Constituency 1 in the Delta State House of Assembly. And it's on record that I'm the very first person who pursued my case right from the tribunal down up to the highest court in the land. And that is a record. And actually, with the card reader printout, it showed that I actually won the election. But unfortunately, the country's legal status at that point, and as at now, is that the card reader is not yet known to our law, as a result of which I could not sail through with the case. So it's on the strength of the fact that the card reader is not yet defined by our law that I lost that case. But I'm still up and kicking. I do not intend to give up. Delta State is a state that is endowed with a lot of human and material resources, and our position in the Committee of Oil Producing States is very, very unpalatable. It's not something that one is proud of. And to get us to the proper positioning, we need people to come out. The hands currently who have been handling the affairs of Delta State for about 18 years, I can tell you, are not the best of hands. We have people far, far better than those, and it's my own mission to ensure that I encourage younger ones. I try myself, I lead the way, encourage younger ones to get more involved in the body politic of Delta State, right from the local government, councillorship, whatever, because like it is well rightly said, the only thing that makes evil thrive in the society is when the good men in society refuse to do nothing about it. It's not that the evil people are in the majority. So I'm driven by that, and I've also had some sojourn into proper development work. I was the first peace building program designer for Partnership Initiative in Niger Delta, PIND, an NGO established by Chevron International to provide socio-economic development for communities across the Niger Delta region. And some of the programs which I designed are currently the ones still being run by the organization. But I had to step out because of my political voyage, because you cannot be doing politics and at the same time be actively involved in development because of the ethics. And so I'm fully back in practice, legal practice now, but I intend to still provide the kind of support that my mind tells me to do for the political system. we want a better society. A better society will make for us a situation where we can maximize our potentials, and the intention of every man to maximize his our potential. And I've tried also in my own little way to impact the lives of people in the rural areas. There are a lot of communities in our area that have not been accorded legal status in terms of enabling them benefit from the operations in their area. I've helped a couple of those communities to gain legal status. I'm doing a lot of cases pro bono, that is free of charge, with a view to ensuring that those who are oppressed, get redressed, And so, apart from community, I also provide legal services to impecunious individuals who have who do not have the wherewithal, to redress some of the wrongs that occur to them. And interestingly enough, I never knew that people appreciate some of the things you do, without singing it. A couple of weeks ago, I won the award for the most outstanding human rights activist, and it came as a surprise to me because I felt I was doing my own little thing in the dark room. Yeah, from the INYC, and it gave me the encouragement to really go on. Although whether or not the award came, I would have gone on. But there's a way that acknowledging the things that you have done, spurs you up to doing more things. So basically, that's who I am and what I do.
Wow, as you can see, and you've heard, my viewers, a man of great personality indeed. I can see the awards all over the wall in your office, and I can see that of pinned too, and that seems like a big thank you to Barrister Robinson Ariyo. So, sir, I know you're a man who will not take no for an answer, and we hope to see you contest some other time again and win. Let's talk about the Warri South constituency 1 you contested for, and I believe that you were at the scene of incident where the disaster happened at Ubeji community. And are you saying that would you say that the people in Warri South constituency 1 are being well represented now?
Well, people usually get the kind of representation that they deserve. I said a couple of minutes ago that evil thrives in the society not because there are more evil people, but because the good people decide to do nothing about it. As a matter of fact, there is nothing like being apolitical in a political system. Being apolitical means that you are supporting the oppressors, and so you find that most of the times, those people that appear to be common people, the common people, are the ones responsible for the situation we find ourselves. Over the years, most of the electorates have become like rituals that you do once in 4 years. The politicians come, make very verbose promises to them, and dole out some amount of money, and they take this money and do the biddings of the politicians, and the politicians go away, not remembering them until another 4 years. And it's such a funny thing, and that's part of what formed the fulcrum of my campaign. That even though I may not have money to give to you, but imagine that should a politician give you 50,000 naira, if you divide that 50,000 naira by 365 days and by 4 again, you will discover that 50,000 naira amounts to actually nothing. Because once the politician has paid for your vote, and then you find a situation where you no longer have the right to make legitimate demands. Having said that, I will say that it's unfortunate, the incident. You can imagine all who have come, none of the legislators. It's funny, we have a federal legislator, we have a state legislator, and yet these are the people who actually are the representatives of the people. And during elections, they'll come back to this same jurisdiction and tell the people, the electorate, that I'm going to represent you, actively. How do you represent a person when the person in his most needy time finds that you are not there? Now, this is an incident that if the people were not lucky, if it was PMS as against diesel, we would have roasted a lot of human beings. Okay, so it's close to that. St. Augustine once said that the death of my neighbor reminds me of mine. You know, not even legally, morally, those who occupy those offices ought to show some level of concern. And I'm not even saying first aid. When I say first aid, like relief materials, people have lost their small businesses, and people have lost their houses, people have been displaced, and there is no commensurate level of, you know, concern being shown by these people. And yet these people turned out en masse, you know, to vote for, although in exchange for money. So bottom line is that we are not being represented properly, but we are not even proper ourselves, because we were the ones that caused the kind of representation that we have.
Of course, change begins with you. Your vote is not for sale. While we were talking at Ubeji the other day, I heard you talked about environmental impact assessments on places that on sites that you know, tank farms are supposed to be there, or are going to be there. So I want you to throw more light. Let us understand.
Okay. You see, it's like having a driver's license. Before any investor constructs a tank farm, operates a tank farm, there are different stages. There is the Department of Petroleum Resources that is in charge. It's the federal agency that is the supervisor of the process to ensure that the operation is done in such a way as not to adversely affect the lives and property of people in that environment. And so you now do an environmental impact assessment. This is an exercise to try and articulate the possible hazard, industrial hazard, that the operation of the proposed tank farm will have on the environment of that particular tank farm. This assessment is done and then subjected to a panel of experts who will look at it and then approve it before your DPRO permit is issued to you. Now, in the process of doing this assessment, a couple of things will emerge. One of which is the suitability of the means of conveying the substance. First of all, we are dealing with very inflammable substance here. Every petrochemical substance is highly inflammable, and so we are talking about possible industrial hazard. And so the environmental impact assessment will throw up the danger of storing that substance, constructing the tank farm, storing the substance, and then marketing, transporting the substance. And so you can imagine, you don't even need to be a scientist to know that if you are carrying 32,000 liters of PMS in a tanker on a daily basis, and the tanker is wobbling, except you have a wonderful miracle, the tanker must fall one day. And when it falls, it leads to the kind of disaster we have. But we thank God, like I said, that it is diesel. So the point is, after the environmental impact assessment, a couple of hazards will be thrown up. And it is the duty of the operator to ensure that measures are put in place to cater, to address, to arrest any eventuality that will occur. For instance, we don't need to be scientists to know that fuel can, cause explosion. Okay? When it does, what do you do? Those are the things that will be contained in the environmental impact assessment report. And how do you address it? We are supposed to have no fewer than 5 firefighting points within that area. Even in our common homes now, people have fire extinguishers close to their kitchen. That is part of they are sitting down and doing an environmental impact assessment and the possible danger proceeding. Now let us look at the road. If you look at the road, every road has a power. There are some roads that are meant for light vehicular traffic. There are others that are meant for heavy vehicular traffic. It's like the foundation of a house. Where a house is built and it's not a story building, you can imagine that the weight of that foundation will not be as strong as the one that will take 10-story building. Now, here we are talking about heavy duty vehicles conveying 32,000 liters of fuel. And what has happened now is that most of the marketers have increased their tank to take beyond the 33 plus, sometimes 40. And so imagine, for instance, that on that road, that kind of road that is meant for light vehicular traffic, you have 10 heavy vehicular traffic on the road. That means you have about 320,000 liters of PMS on the road. And it's not that the road is smooth. Even where the road is smooth, some other forms of accidents can occur. Now, is it not suicidal to carry such a thing on that wobbling, that deplorable road? Anything can happen. You see, when you go there, if you traveled, I mean, you're around that area, you see the tankers wobble. So you don't need to be a scientist, you don't need to be a safety officer to know that one day that wobbling will lead to a fall. And once it does, the other vehicles that are around will be taken over by fire. And so it is sad that people sit down, live every day, hourly. This is not an event that occurs once in 4 months or once in a year. It's a daily event, daily occurrence. So it baffles me to see that people will sit down. There are a lot of high caliber of people in the society who reside there. You have House of Reps members, you have multi-millionaires, you have businessmen, you have people who are held to the esteem in the society. They see these things every day and they feel comfortable. We thank God somehow that this has happened and no life has been lost. This is a point at which the advocacy, the highest level of advocacy, should come in. That road was not meant for heavy duty vehicle. If they want to operationalize whatever tank farms they have a choice to either make another road that is befitting for heavy duty vehicles, or make that road to be compatible with both heavy duty vehicles and light duty vehicles. You cannot use a light duty road for a heavy duty vehicle, and you compound it by carrying heavy loads on the heavy, explosive loads on the heavy. We are sitting on a keg of gunpowder and time is ticking. If these people continue the way they are doing it and they resume production or transportation, lifting of fuel without addressing these issues, it could happen to anybody. And it is sad. And I feel that one of the things that ought to happen now is that the world, especially the Fourth Estate of the Realm, members of the Fourth Estate of the Realm, should help to highlight this danger. There is no danger to humanity as much as danger to life. How painful would it be for somebody to roast while sleeping? How painful would it be for somebody to roast while driving a car? Do not forget that apart from these heavy duty vehicles, each of the other vehicles are carrying PMS. So it's like having time bombs all over the place. It will just be a chain. It will cascade into something that we cannot imagine. So it's sad, and I don't know what the government is doing, whether the federal or the states, all of them together. The local government can even do advocacy. And sad enough, that is the only ingress and egress of the cluster of communities there. So it is strange. It is not something that is conceivable in any civilized society. I
was there when the Olu of Warri, Ogiame Kenwole I, came to inspect the disaster, and he pleaded with the youths of the community to allow the road construction workers continue so that the road can be to avoid such occurrence again, because if the road is that bad, another tanker can fall off the road again. But sir, there's something I want to highlight at this juncture. I think you're talking about the road not being suitable for heavy duty vehicles, and the reconstruction they are carrying on now is the same lightweight vehicles. So what do we do at this juncture as a legal practitioner? How do we now fight it to make sure that they construct a road that is suitable to carry heavy duty vehicles?
Now there's what you call public interest litigation. Now you can come as a class of people, residents of Obeji community or Ife community, and you can use the law to compel. One, you see, DPRO is highly culpable in all this. DPRO is the supervisor, is the body that should ensure that the standard practice, best global practices in the oil and gas industry is observed. We are talking about a cluster of 4-5 tank farms carrying tons of PMS and diesel, and they will be doing this on a daily basis. Why I respect the call for the construction of the road, I think we should step back a little bit. What kind of road are you constructing? Now, the road that is being constructed now, I don't need to be a civil engineer to know that it's a light vehicular traffic road. And you will even pity the contractor, because the contractor is paid to construct a light vehicular traffic road. In the process of construction, heavy vehicular traffic, is experienced. So the person, the contractor is having double jeopardy, because had it been, look at the few days that light vehicular traffic was plying that road. First of all, the traffic was not as thick as it used to be. The confusion was not as much as it used to be. That is how the road should be. So that if you are paid to construct a light vehicular traffic road, as you are constructing it, if the light vehicles pass, the damage they will do will be less than the damage they will do when it is heavy vehicular traffic. So the point is that we need to step back. We need to know what kind of road are these people constructing. Is it a light vehicular traffic road or a heavy vehicular traffic road? We need to go back again and review the contract if we truly want to fix this. And the way to fix this, you see, one thing we do in Nigeria is that we are constructing a road, we are using that road at the same time. So it is not meant to be. You ought to provide a decoy. You ought to provide an alternative, a temporary alternative, so that you can focus on the construction and do it properly. I also blame the government for not, releasing funds. They are not prioritizing that road. You see, the primary duty and responsibility of government is the protection of lives and property. That is the primary duty. If the government refuses to, or omits, fails to do that, the government is not a government. So for every democratic setting, there's usually provision for redress. Whenever you go to the court, there's this inscription on the wall with the effigy of justice. It says in Latin, ubi jus, ibi remedium. It means that wherever there is a wrong, there is a remedy. The remedy for the people is quite legitimate. They can go to court and compel DPR to ensure that the mandatory provision, and I must say this, not to follow the processes laid down amounts to a criminal offense. That's very important. Now, and the culpable parties, from all indication, are the DPR, the tank owners, the tanker drivers association, and what have you. And so, it is possible within the legal framework for you to get redress in court, halting the lifting of petroleum products until certain things are put in place. Because the reason why you have the environmental impact assessment law is because of things like this. It's designed to protect the lives and property of the people, which is the primary duty and responsibility of government. So the law has already been made, and the law says that not to follow it amounts to a criminal offense. And so you cannot be committing an offense and the law will not aid the victim of the offense. Right now, the victim of the offense are the people. And so what they need to do is to get proper legal advice. And it is not just to rush to start assessing compensation. If you get compensated for the destruction of your property today and the danger is still there and tomorrow it kills you, how are you going to be compensated? So the people need, one, to do sufficient advocacy. They need to bring in a lot of the press. What they have done now is not sufficient. They need to let the world know that the best practices in the industry are completely being violated in the operation of the tank farms. And this is the part through which the entire nation is somehow partially fed with petroleum products. And so, if you stop the lifting, it's going to bite hard on the tank owners, it's going to bite hard on the marketers, and you now have an opportunity of reporting the DPR and what they have done and how they have handled this situation. And you see, one of the things that our people don't do is they don't identify a particular struggle and fight it to the end. A lot of people are interested in the pecuniary aspect of this particular disaster. They are positioned themselves. They are trying to talk about compensation. Compensation, right. But compensation is first aid. What is the long-term plan? How can you prevent this? We are still living with are you going to resume lifting of oil under such circumstance? Even if you pray all the prayers in the world, you need to put some work in place. And that work for me is to advocate and insist that the proper things be done. The procedure laid out for operations of this kind of hazardous substance is strictly adhered to.
If you pray from now till next year, the Bible has even stated that faith without work is dead. I think we would have to also go and speak with the community leaders so that we know what they are going to do about this to curb further future occurrence. So, sir, let us go into the nation now. You know, people are talking about this restructuring. As a legal practitioner, what is your view on it?
Well, you see, it's not today. It's been a long time that people have been talking about restructuring. The problem we have in this country is not with the laws. The problem we have in this country is not really with the scaffold or the framework we have. It is with the people. Do you know we have more laws than a lot of countries? Take, for instance, the United States of America. The Constitution of the United States of America is less than 15 pages. But we have a 300 and something pages Constitution. You understand? New every day. So, you see, the problem is attitudinal in nature, our attitude towards each other. The average Nigerian is a very selfish person. He's first of all loyal to his family, loyal to his tribe, loyal to his religion, and the country comes last. And so, somehow, some way, people from whom a lot is gotten to run the country legitimately feel that they should get more than they are getting. When you are talking about restructuring, you are talking about rearranging the entire power structure in such a way as to achieve an objective, and that is to ensure that people who are being marginalized with the current structure are not marginalized. But talking about marginalization, it's like even those who are calling for creation of a particular republic, severing from Nigeria. You see, your aim, your objective usually drives your activity. Now, if we take it from the minutest part, the community you have there are different segments in the community. People there, some members of that community feel that they are oppressed, feel that they are marginalized. So what is the way forward for them? Is it for them to have their own country? No. In Delta State, for instance, you have 5 major ethnic groups. Among these 5, some of the ethnic groups feel that they are marginalized. So what is the solution to that? Is it to create a state for them? Now, within a particular ethnic group, there are some people who also feel marginalized. If you take Ishekiri, for instance, some of those who live in the rural areas feel that those who live in the urban area impose candidates on them. They feel that they are marginalized. So my approach to problem is to identify what the needs of the people are. If this country is run in such a way that everybody gets his own fair share, nobody will be, agitating for either an independent or restriction or what have you. Now, you see, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, specifically Section 14, provides that the country should be run in such a way that no one ethnic group or interest group is made to over-benefit over the others. That law is there. You understand? That things should be done in an equitable manner, in a justiciable manner. Now, when we have such a law, even with the system we have, if that law is properly operationalized, what will happen? Everybody will feel good. Look at this particular administration, for instance. The appointments have been very, very one-sided against the spirit and intent of that particular provision of the Constitution. And that is why some people are feeling bad, feeling very, very bad. If you look at the Southeasterners, their agitation, let us trace it. When Goodluck Jonathan was there, the agitation was not as loud as this. They weren't even agitating. During the election process, they were pushing for Goodluck Jonathan. That showed you something, that these people are driven, every human being is driven by interests. If people's interests are satisfied, they are saying they are being marginalized. Appointments are being done. Look at the recent NNPC appointment. Look at the way it tilted only towards one region. You see, I see that as an insult. Why do I see it as an insult? If you argue that it is merit, are you now suggesting that this other area are deficient in terms of, there are no intellects there. So it's the biggest form of insult. There is no ethnic group, there is no political party, there is no religion that is a repository of intellectuals. intellectuals are everywhere. You have intellectuals that are Christians, you have excellent intellectuals that are Christians, excellent intellectuals that are Muslims, excellent intellectuals that are Northerners, excellent intellectuals that are Southerners. So the bullshit that it is merit that drove the process amounts to an insult. So let us not be, further agitating the minds of people. Those are inflammatory kinds of comments. Those are inflammatory kinds of policies. Those are inflammatory kinds of decisions that the government is taking. So I feel that the biggest problem now is not the form. You can say you restructure. When restructuring does not improve your life, I mean, what is the purpose of restructuring? What we have now, we can run with it. If only people are committed and they administer this country to the letters. That particular section of the Constitution is a very wonderful section. What are we asking for? We're asking for justice. The Constitution, for instance, talks about a minimum of 13% derivation. That is minimum. So if the North and West understand us, we can move from 13 to 60%. Do we need to now? I mean, the structure is already there. It is our attitude. It's our desire not to, listen to. Look at the recent industry bill, which was supposed to be passed. Now, what happened was that the aspect of it that had to do with local content, which would have directly benefited the host community, that portion of it, those areas were first of all left. You now looked at the administration rather than looking at the main, issue why people have been agitating for a review of how we do our oil and gas business. So, for me, it is not restructuring, is paperwork. True federalism is paperwork. Fiscal federalism is paperwork. What we have now, we can run. Making of a new constitution doesn't make sense to me. Because the constitution we have now, this is the constitution that says that you have a right to life. This is a constitution that says you have freedom of expression. This is a constitution that says you have freedom of movement. This is a constitution that says that the government has the duty to protect lives and property. Have we been able to use it? Why don't you use this first? We have not been. So what's the guarantee that if you have a perfect constitution, if that is possible, that you'll be able to use it, when the imperfect constitution, you are not yet using it? You understand? So for me, I take a radical position. I don't think it's about restructuring. I don't think it's about fiscal federalism. I don't think it's about creating secession. I don't think that it's about any of these. I think it's about our attitude to what we have currently. If you take an example, there is a law of bigamy. It's a criminal offense if a man who is married under the act remarries. Okay? Now, the point is this. Where you have a woman who has a husband who has many of these happen, the policeman himself will be a bigamist who will arrest the person who has committed bigamy offense. The judge will be a bigamist. The prison warden will be a bigamist. The father of the woman will be a bigamist. The landlord of the woman will be a bigamist. The employer of the woman will be a bigamist. So where do you go from there? So some of these laws are not in tune with our custom and tradition. So what we simply did was to just bring laws without operationalizing, without breathing. You see, laws must be organic. Laws are meant to be a tool of social engineering, a tool with which you engineer the entire society and make it work effectively. You have to breathe life into it. What we have are dead laws. I say they are dead laws because they are constantly being violated on a daily basis, and the level of our ignorance is so oceanic that it makes the entire thing look very ridiculous. You understand?
Okay, sir. Let us talk about the modular refineries that the government have decided to operate and run with. So do we see that as the key to unlocking the nation, or in fact the wealth of the nation generally?
Again, another big mistake. You see, if the intention of your bringing about modular refinery is to encourage those who are stealing oil not to steal oil, to now legitimize it, There's a simple principle of economics. If a man over the years has been getting raw materials free of charge by way of stealing, and you suddenly want to stop the man should now buy. First of all, you have to work on the man's mindset. It has to be a process. It will not automatically, as a matter of fact, what you will simply do is that you will equip the man with better tools to steal. Because look at it, the business the man has been used to for 20, 30 years is stealing crude oil raw. So his psyche is so structured in a manner that he has his profit margin. His cost, his overhead cost does not include the stealing of that. So he has never calculated it from that angle. And it is cost that drives production. Okay, now you want to sell the same substance to the man. Man is a pleasure seeking and pain avoiding being. People want shortcuts. If a road is short, why go and pass the Israelite approach? Okay, in as much as the idea of modular refinery is beautiful, we have to ask ourselves, why are we embracing this idea? If it is to reduce theft, it's a wrong approach. The very first thing to reduce theft is to work on the mindset. The Niger Delta has a very big problem, and that's the problem of entitlement. Every Niger Deltan believes that the mere fact that you are from an oil producing community, it makes you a superhuman being. You no longer have to work hard. It's just at the snip of the finger you have oil, and that is a wrong attitude. It's wrong because even though you are from an oil producing community, that should not stop you from maximizing whatever potential, identifying your talent, pursuing it. You can advance your talent within the skilled area, and you can also do that within the semi-skilled area and the unskilled area. The reason why a lot of Niger Deltans are no longer developing intellectually is because they insist that they have a right, and they are actually they enforce their rights, their economic right. They collect it either by hook or by crook. And the bottom line is, when you go to the street today and you ask the up and coming, what do you want to be when you grow up? You will never hear any of them say a teacher. You never hear any of them say a professor, but you hear them say a Tompolo of this world, a Johnny. So these are the kind of things we have replaced. We have redesigned our role models in the society. And so for me, it is not, we have to think it. It's not, that's the problem with Nigeria. People just come up with policies. They don't understand the basics. You have to look at the history of this theft. People have become so large, and the market, the stakeholders in this oil theft, cuts across security, cuts across government, cuts across community leaders, and what have you. It's a big problem. It's not a problem that you can just solve with Panadol. It's like AIDS. You need to sit down and look at, because it's most of the rich people you find around either have one leg on or the other to illegal bunkering. It's a big market. You see, the only thing that sells more than illegal bunkering is cocaine. I mean, imagine where raw material is prepared. You don't know, you didn't spend anything. You just go there, fixing your pipe, and take it from there. You are getting it free of charge. So a person who has been used to getting things free of charge, you need to change the person's mind. And change is not a 100-meter dash. It's not an event, it's a process. It's a relay. We're not thinking this. We will waste another set of time, energy, and resources in trying to bring about modular refinery, with the view of trying to ensure that people they will continue. The stealing will go on, except the proper things are done. So I don't think modular refinery will cure anything.
I think the problem we have are the checks and balances, because even if they now bring up these modular refineries, people will still steal the oil, and then they would have more license to even steal. All right, so as a legal practitioner, let's talk about the country trying to cop looted funds. I don't know. They seem to just get those money, retrieve them, and place them somewhere I don't even know. So is there any bill that says that it should be retrieved and kept, or how are they supposed to go about using the money they recover from looters?
Yeah, this is another area where we had existing laws and we didn't even need more laws. When you steal funds, it's a criminal offense. Okay? And this present administration came on board on the strength of advocating against corruption. Now, the irony of the fight against corruption is that within the corridors of the power of this particular administration are very corrupt people that we know, that people have pieces of evidence about. And yet, these people move freely. Now, we have been told for more than 2 years that a lot of billions of naira have been retrieved. Now, it's simple mathematics. If somebody stole money and he agrees that the money was stolen and he's returning that money, the person from whom that money was stolen becomes the owner of that money. And that person can appropriate that money the way he appropriates his money ordinarily. There's no rocket science about it. Appropriation law. You use it. This is money. Okay, let's say Nigeria had 4 billion in an account, and a government official went there and stole 4 billion. Now he has spent $500 million out of it. He now agrees voluntarily as a plea bargain to return 3 billion. He returns the 3 billion. The billion goes to the treasury. Is there no way that you have been appropriating the treasury? You appropriate it that way. You just take records and say this money actually belongs to the national treasury. It was removed from there. Now it has been returned. It automatically belongs to the national. So there's a process for assessing that fund. You appropriate the appropriation. What the common man calls budget. You appropriate it, and there's nothing that stops you from appropriating it. So all this mystification, for 2 years you have gotten this, you have gotten that, let there be a way that people can. We are coming into another election cycle. What are you going to tell us? What are you going to tell us? I'm still waiting for what they are going to say.
But sir, I don't know. Are you still with APC?
Yes. You see, I am not just an ordinary politician. I am with APC. However, but I am first a Nigerian. You join political parties because you want the progress of your country. So I want to be able tomorrow, if by chance PDP comes on board, I want to be able to also constructively criticize the government. I want to have a moral basis. It should not be that because my party is in power and my party is not performing, I will now say it is performing. My conscience. You see, Osman Danfodo said something long ago, that conscience is an open wound. Only the truth can heal it. Every time you say a lie, you go back to your bed, you are killing yourself. You are jailing your conscience. I want to be a free person, a free spirit. So whether it is APC, whether it's the PDP that is on board, whenever they are doing what is not right, I will tell you they are doing what is not right. Right now, the APC is not getting it right. I know the APC can get it right. When PDP was not getting it right, I said PDP was not getting it right. I was most vocal against the PDP government in this state. And so I cannot now be seen to keep quiet and kill my conscience because my party is in power. Because the moment you belong to a party, you can talk party, you can suggest things to party. When that comes to the country, it's now your loyalty for the country first. Then your party second. If your party is not performing, you can criticize your party with a view to getting your party to correct. Then you make your input. I'm making my input internally to ensure things are not going well. How can you say you have a party? Look, at the oil is from the south. You want to establish a board, a set of executives to administer the oil. 99.9% of them come from the north. If it was the other way around, would you take it?
So I would want to ask one question at this juncture, because when your brother, Dr. Emmanuel Iweta Oduan, was the governor of Delta State, many Shekiris cried that he did not do anything, he did not function for his own people. So now, and they are saying that President Muhammadu Buhari is functioning for his own people. So what are we saying now? Because I call it geopolitical governance. Yes. So you function for your geopolitical zone.
And that is wrong. That is not proper. But you see, the truth is that because we are human beings, we have our own fair share of sentiments. Now, it is difficult for you to be in an office and not favor your people a little bit. But let Lagos not be bigger than Nigeria. In other words, the degree of your favoring should not be such as to be overwhelming. I'm not going to tell you that if I'm in position tomorrow, I'm not going to favor my people. But I'm going to ensure that substantially, I am just and fair to everybody. And once you are substantially just and fair to everybody, then the little ones that you can add to your people, because at least there has to be a reason why you are from a particular place, So for me, the president is overdoing it. And the excuse that is coming in the form of that is merit is a further slap, it's a salt on the already existing injury. You understand? So I think that as human beings, we are in an imperfect world. We are imperfect ourselves. We cannot be perfectly just and fair, but we should be substantially just and fair. So for me, it is substantial fairness and justice. It's not that I'm not going to be favoring my people.
Of course. Okay, let us come to your people now, the Itsekiri national ethnicity. You were the national coordinator. I don't know if you're still the coordinator of the Volunteers for the Protection of Itsekiri Rights. So what is the function of the body?
Well, the function of the body is to live up to the duty of identifying the areas where every Itsekiri man or woman, community or corporate body is being oppressed and trying to redress that oppression. Now, the Itsekiri people are, without sense of seriousness, they are the most deprived in Nigeria. Let me explain to you. You see, every area of Nigeria cries about infrastructural deficit, lack of infrastructure, and that is true. Neglect from the government, and that is true. Itsekiri is also involved in that. But beyond that, the Itsekiris are a group of people who unfortunately are being led into extinction gradually. Now, the space that the Itsekiris occupy is such an attractive space. It's a commercially viable space, which makes it, attractive for other people to come in. And while we are talking about infrastructural deficit, we are talking about survival, because our areas, we are being compacted in such a manner, we are being pushed away in such a manner that what our fathers entrusted to us as a geographical space has been constrained significantly. And so we are living under the constant fear that there will be continuous, construction of that particular space, to prevent us eventually from even having any space at the end of the day. For instance, you will see that if you were to ask, are the Itsekiris Nigerians? The answer would be yes. Then you now come down. Are the Itsekiris Deltans? The answer would be yes. Then you now come down. Which local government council area can you lay claim to as at today and say that this local government area exclusively belongs to Itsekiri? None. And that is because of gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is the process through which the government of the day compartmentalizes the wards, the constituency in an area to favor another against one. So the point is that we have so much to protest against, and therefore we need hands to be on deck to identify this problem, to try and fashion out strategies, workable strategies that can get us out of this problem. And so that is where the Volunteers for the Protection of Itsekiri Rights, comes in. But apart from the Volunteers for Itsekiri Rights, there are other organizations. So we are doing our own little way, and we are collaborating with other human rights organizations or bodies that have similar objectives with us. We are living in a very crucial time. Like I said, most ethnic nationalities in Nigeria can lay claim to exclusive LGAs. There are Itsekiris in Saple, a lot of Itsekiris are in Saple, but are they enjoying the kind of political leverage that other tribes are enjoying within the Itsekiri areas? For instance, we have had the Community Development Association in the 3 Warri local government areas. The idea is that other ethnic groups in the area should be given a feeling of belonging, a sense of belonging. Now, we have a lot of Ishekiris in Saple. Why can't we have a CDA in Saple? We have a lot of Ishekiris in Uwe. Why can't we have a CDA in Uwe? So these are all the problems. So it's a unique kind of problem. So while we are crying the normal cry of infrastructural deficit, we are crying a cry for survival. And that is why I said that we are the most marginalized. If you take Delta State, for instance, the Ijos can lay claim to Bomadi as exclusive local government, Burutu as exclusive local government, Patan as exclusive local government. The Robos can lay claim to a lot, about 8 of them. The Undokwas can lay claim. The Sokos can lay claim. So you can see that in that sense, we are certainly the most marginalized. We cannot lay claim to one. And that is why you see there's so much pressure. If you look at, that is why if you get out of this state, most people who are from environs will say they are from Warri. A comedian will come out and say, as we did one for Warri. Recently, I don't want to mention name, somebody won one of the shows claiming that he's from Warri. Eventually, when he had to go home, he went to Ogeli. You know, so these are the things. So before you know it, people's minds are being worked on. The Aboriginal Warri people, their voices are not being heard.
So, sir, before we let you go now, so what are we expecting from Barrister Robinson Ariyo politically?
Well, the truth is that I will have to slow down a little bit now. A honor is being done to me in a few days' time. In a few days' time, I will become a chief of the respected Warri Kingdom, and for me, that is a honor that is heavenly, you know. So it's going to affect the way I now do things, because I'm not just going to be simply Barrister Robinson Ariyo. I'm now going to be an ambassador of a kingdom that is over 500 years old. I now have to carry myself in a more respectable manner. I'm not suggesting that I've not been carrying myself in a respectable manner, but I said in a more respectable manner. And I will now need to sit down, because whatever I say from then on will be read as being said by a person who is from the palace, you know, a person who is a chief. And so I will have to revisit. I will have to sit down on the drawing board and look at the options that are available to me. I will not be as radical as I used to be, and that is because I will not be visibly radical. I will still be radical in my own quiet way, but I will have to, certainly status would have changed, and my contributions will now be in a more constructive and a more intense and quiet manner than the current loud manner, you know, because I have to be taking instructions from some superiors, you know, and I have to be watching the signals from superiors. But for politics, I think that it is something that I would prefer to be on the sideline, provide support and encouragement. I may not necessarily be vying for any position, but I'm going to make my wealth of experience in the political landscape available to any political party that I am in. I'm going to take a less executive, you know, position. I'll take a more residual, you know, position.
Indeed, no great man lives in vain, because the history of the world is but the biography of great men. You cannot dispute Thomas Callis on that. You would agree with me that we have had time with a great man and a greater man in the making. Barrister Robinson Ariyo, soon to be Chief Barrister Robinson Ariyo, a man who stands for the truth at all times, criticizing the flaws of his own political party. Let us put the square pegs in the square hole. We would achieve a better Nigeria if all of us function in our own small capacity. Well, I am Harrington's Courage Bauer, and it is still Corporate Image Profile, brought to you courtesy Toshima Media House. You can join the conversation via our social media platforms displaying on your screen. Till I come your way next time, remember, together we will.